Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is The Housewife Did It. I choked.
Bonus edition.
That's it.
Current news category.
Yeah.
Category is
Current news.
Current news, realness.
Updates plus our opinions.
Yeah. My husband has been complaining every week at RuPaul's Drag Race when they're describing their outfits. He says, "Why does no one say realness anymore?"
The culture's just changed so much.
I know.
Alrighty. So if you follow true crime, you've probably heard this already.
And if you follow our podcast.
Yeah, then we mentioned this last week. So the LA Innocence Project has taken on Scott Peterson's case, which is interesting. I will start by saying that the Innocence Project taking on someone's case does not inherently mean that they are innocent. Usually though, it does mean that we'll find out more information than we previously knew. So I'm keeping an open mind. But we're going to give you a quick summary of the case and then the updates on what's going on now. So, to start, in 2002, Laci Peterson, 8 months pregnant at the time with her son Connor, went missing on Christmas Eve. Laci lived with her husband Scott Peterson in Modesto, California. That day, Scott says that he woke up and went fishing while Laci stayed home and took the dog on a walk. After stopping by his work to send some emails, Scott drove to Berkeley Marina and fished for about an hour and a half. When he returned home, Laci wasn't there, but he wasn't concerned. He assumed that she had gone to her mother's house to prepare for Christmas Eve dinner or brunch. I think there's mixed reviews what the meal was, but to cook for Christmas stuff. Now, just in general, because he was Laci's husband, he was obviously the first the police looked into. He refused, right off the bat and till the very end, he refused to take a polygraph test, which I also won't fault him for.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, even if you're
not
innocent.
admissible in court.
Yeah. But he also didn't ask the police any questions about the investigation, which they obviously thought was strict. The media caught wind of a search warrant being executed on the Peterson home, and the suspicion of Scott spread like wildfire. In addition, the help of Nancy Grace can usually speed those things up.
Yeah, it can.
People were constantly outside of their home trying to speak with him, catch photos of him, or just to yell at him for being a presumed murderer.
Yeah. So Laci was reported missing on December 24th, and when police searched the home's computer history, they found a Yahoo shopping site where the browser, whoever it may have been, had looked at a $20 umbrella stand with sunflowers on it, a garden weather vane, and a digital weather station, as well as a search on the Gap for a $6 fleece scarf. The user then looked at Scott's email, researched weather conditions in San Jose, California. The searches occurred around 8:04 a.m. So Scott said it was Laci.
Yeah, I think the idea is that she loves sunflowers. Right. So they were must be her.
Yeah. She has a sunflower tattoo. So he's like, yes, that's so her coded. She's searching for a sunflower umbrella stand, obviously.
Of course.
It's like if somebody found somebody searching for things with cherries on it at my house, they'd be like, that's her. Immediately her.
Yeah.
But then I guess she checked his email. And weather for San Jose, where she wasn't going to be. Prosecutors would later say that it did not line up with the timing of Laci's disappearance, and that the last time anyone had heard from her besides Scott was on a phone call at 8:30 p.m. on December 23rd. Scott says he last saw her at 9:30 a.m. Scott says he saw her at around 9:30 a.m. on the 24th before he went fishing, and then their dog Mackenzie was seen wandering the neighborhood at 10:15 a.m.
Mm-hmm. So after she goes missing, I mean, they spread it very quickly. People get on board to help search on New Year's Eve, even through Christmas. That's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
On New Year's Eve, the entire town came together for a public vigil for Laci and Connor. People thought Scott's behavior was strange, and it was also caught on camera. He chose not to speak at the vigil and was caught doing a lot of smiling and laughing, which is like not to say that you can't find moments of joy when your wife is missing. That's fine. Also during the vigil, Peterson called his secret girlfriend, telling her that he was ringing in the new year with friends in Paris. So he had begun dating Amber Fry in November of that same year, and they had gotten quite serious, even though it had only been about 2 months. But
as serious as you can get when one of you is married with a baby on the way.
Yeah, but they were, I mean, he was like picking up her kid from school. Like, they were pretty serious. He told her that his wife, who at the time was very much alive and a part of his life, he told her that she was dead and that this would be his first Christmas without her. I guess to be more specific, because Scott Peterson will later refute this, he told her, my wife is gone, and this will be my first Christmas without her. So technically, she just inferred that she was dead. That's her fault.
Yeah.
Obviously. On December 30th, so the day before this vigil, Amber had seen about Laci's disappearance in the news and started piecing things together. She obviously didn't know his wife's name, didn't know that he still like had a wife, but she like heard the description of the husband, and had like the same job and the same name as her boyfriend. And so she quickly started working with the police, and she ended up getting about 29 hours of recorded conversation with Scott for the investigators.
She actually started recording her phone calls with him before she even told investigators about them, because she I think you have this later on. She tells them about their relationship on January 24th, but she's recording their phone calls as early as New Year's. So on one of those recorded phone calls, it's the one where he is at the vigil and he's telling her that he's celebrating New Year's Eve in Paris on a business trip. He tells her, and this is in the recording, that the Eiffel Tower looked beautiful that night, that the crowd was huge. Then he tells her that it is too loud to hear her, and he hangs up. On January 6th, on another recorded phone call, he comes clean to Amber about being married, about the fact that his wife is missing, and the fact that he was in Modesto at the time and not Paris. When she asked for an explanation of how he could say his wife was dead on December 9th and the fact that she happened to then go missing on December 24th, he said, quote, "I know you deserve an explanation and I want to give you one. I can't now. I mean, you don't understand." End quote.
You're right, I don't.
Yeah, I truly don't get it.
Yeah.
Enlighten me.
So before this, police had already been searching the Berkeley Marina for any evidence that Scott may have dumped Laci's body, but they were coming up short. On January 24th, investigators caught wind that a news outlet was going to release a photo that they had found of Amber and Scott. And so to get ahead of that, they went ahead and put Amber in a press conference, and she revealed her relationship with Scott Peterson. So anyone who hadn't already done so seemed to turn on Scott at this point. He then did an interview with Diane Sawyer, which I'm going to play just so you can get Scott's vibe.
I think everybody sitting at home wants the answer to the same question. Did you murder your wife?
No, I did not. And I had absolutely nothing to do with her disappearance. And use the word murder. And yeah, I mean, that is a possibility. It's not one we're ready to accept, and it creeps in my mind late at night and early in the morning. And during the day, all we can think about is the right resolution is to find her well.
But as you know, increasingly in the public, suspicion has turned on you.
Yes, definitely.
Did you ever hit her? Did you ever injure her?
No. My God, no. Violence towards women is unapproachable. It is the most disgusting act to me. And I know that suspicion has turned me. And it's turned me, one, because I'm her husband, and that's a natural thing. And I've heard all the statistics on all the news shows about that being, someone that a husband, ex-husband, a boyfriend, that is statistically one who would be responsible for her disappearance. And I'm sorry, I forgot your question.
Did you ever hit her? Did you ever injure her?
No, never. I was answering your question because of the suspicion that it's been turned to me. And it turned to me because of the inappropriate romantic that I had with Amber Fry.
Amber Fry went public about the romance after seeing all the stories about Laci Peterson's disappearance.
I met Scott Peterson November 20th, 2002. I was introduced to him. I was told he was unmarried.
Amber Fry came forward.
I'm glad she did.
You are?
Definitely.
Why?
It's the appropriate thing to do. It really shows what a person of character she is. And it allows us to get back looking for Laci.
Did you tell her that you were not married?
I did. And then when Laci disappeared, I called her, and admittedly it wasn't immediately. It was a couple days after Laci's disappearance. I telephoned her and told her the truth.
The truth?
That I was married, that Laci disappeared. She didn't know about it at that point. And then she contacted the police.
But Fry says she first found out about Laci from the news, not from Scott.
Were you in love with her?
No.
Was this the first time? Are there others out there?
No.
There's no one else who can come forward?
No. I owe a tremendous apology to everyone.
Had you told anyone? Did you tell police?
Told the police immediately.
When?
That was the first night together. The police, I spent with the police.
You told them about her?
Yeah, from December 24th on.
That wasn't true, and Scott Peterson called us after the interview to set the record straight. He said he never told the police about his affair with Amber Fry, but claims he did tell his wife.
Did your wife find out about it?
I told my wife.
When?
In early December.
Did it cause a rupture in the marriage?
It was not a positive, obviously. It's inappropriate. But it was not something that we weren't dealing with.
A lot of arguing?
No. I can't say that even she was okay with the idea, but it wasn't anything that would break us apart.
There wasn't a lot of anger?
No.
Do you really expect people to believe that an 8.5-month pregnant woman learns her husband has had an affair and is saintly and casual about it? Accommodating? Makes a peace with it?
Well, you don't know. No one knows our relationship but us. And that's at peace with it, not happy about it.
Why did you tell her?
It was the right thing.
Because again, you know that people sitting at home have imagined that either you were in love with someone else, therefore you decided to get rid of this entanglement, namely your wife and your child, or there was just an angry confrontation.
Neither of those was the case. It's that simple.
He insisted all was well between him and Laci.
Tell me about the state of your marriage. What kind of marriage was it?
God, I mean, the first word that comes to mind is, glorious. I mean, we took care of each other very well. She was amazing. She is amazing.
When Scott Peterson's parents and other family members joined the interview, they said their faith in his innocence never wavered, even though they were surprised about the affair.
Susan, what was your reaction when you heard?
I was very shocked, to be quite honest. It's not in Scott's character.
And when you hear people now out in the country say, did he do it? What do you want to say to them?
He couldn't have if
Possible.
it's impossible. If he knew Scott, he's the gentlest soul I think I've ever known.
The police interviewed Scott Peterson 3 times, but after he got a lawyer, he did not talk to them again. His house was searched twice, and more questions about his behavior began to surface.
A neighbor says that the first thing that Laci did every morning was pull open the curtains. But this morning, they were never pulled open.
Yeah, they were down when I returned. It's very common in the summer that she opens up the curtains. But again, we're talking about a day that, I don't know what it was, probably 40 degrees that day or something. And during the winter, we don't open the curtains to keep the house warm.
Nothing to that, nothing suspicious.
No, I mean, certainly I wish if something had happened to her in the house, I wish they'd been open so someone may have been able to stop it. But in the winter, who opens their curtains for the draft?
Another story that is out there is that the kitchen was spotless. And in fact, there was still a wet mop around, which indicated somebody had cleaned something very recently.
Laci was mopping the floors when I left that morning. Yes, the house is spotless. She had a cleaning lady on Monday, the 23rd.
So if the cleaning lady had been there, why have to clean again?
Dog, 2 cats, muddy backyard. She mopped those floors every day. And I emptied the bucket when I returned that afternoon.
There was one report that a neighbor had seen you loading something into a vehicle.
I haven't seen that report.
Did you load anything into a vehicle? Anything large?
Some umbrellas, some market umbrellas. Those are those, the umbrellas on the stands that are 8 feet in diameter or something like that.
When did you do that?
That morning.
If all these actions seem suspicious, they're still circumstantial.
I want to go back to a couple of other questions people have. I've heard so many people say, Christmas Eve, you have a very pregnant wife, and you decide to go fishing? What does that say about the two of you?
Well, we had plans that evening with Laci's mom, over at her house. Frankly, Christmas preparations were done.
What did you got her for Christmas?
Oh, a Louis Vuitton wallet. but preparations were made. Her plan for the day was to prepare gingerbread cookies. My day was open to play golf or go fishing. I chose fishing that day, which is a choice I made, and I obviously regret now. If I could just decide to stay home, that's what would have happened.
I noticed during the interview he had not yet talked about something.
You haven't mentioned your son.
It's so hard.
Their baby boy was due on February 16th.
Tell me about the nursery.
Can't go in there. The door is closed until there's someone to put in there. But it's ready.
Throughout the interview, he insisted he was innocent.
Are you afraid police will arrest you?
No. I know there's no basis. I had nothing to do with their disappearance. So there's no possible evidence or anything like that.
Have they given you reason to think that you're their prime suspect?
Yeah, I mean, with with the search warrants for the cars and things like that, certainly. With the a search warrant for the home, when it gets specific to a car, obviously they're looking at me.
Okay, it was a little distracting with the incorrect.
The horrible subtitles.
That was rough.
Yeah.
I was taking notes. I was feverishly typing. One thing, in the original police interview, he did tell them nothing was wrong with his marriage. It's perfect. Apparently he's sticking with. I feel like saying he's not in love with Amber Fry is like such a his lawyer told him to say that. He was like, dude, if you're in love with her, you know what people do when they're in love with someone? They kill for them. So no, you're saying it was just about the sex or something.
Did not really like her that much, actually.
Yeah. Also, did you see that moment when Diane mentions the curtains and he's like, oh shit, I forgot to fucking open the curtains?
I mean, and then the over explanation of the umbrellas, and he's like,
Yes.
I have not heard that I was putting in anything in my car.
Yeah, I haven't heard the report.
Exactly what I put in my car.
I don't care if you've heard the report. I'm asking you. Her fucking face when he said, yeah, I was loading umbrellas, she was like, I'm sitting in front of a killer. And also, no, you did not buy her a Louis Vuitton wallet. Fuck off.
He's like, maybe if I say this, she'll come home.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's his fascination with umbrellas?
And it just so happens that he's like an 8-foot umbrella. That's a little taller than a person. No one will know the difference. All right. So, take from that what you will. You can tell what we took from it.
Yeah.
In April, locals came across the torso of a woman and the body of an infant washed ashore at the Berkeley Marina. Police went to arrest Scott Peterson, and when they found him, he was in San Diego, so kind of close to the border, and he had $10,000 in cash, camping gear, 4 cell phones, his brother's ID, and a fresh new hairdo. He had dyed his hair blonde.
Tom Schwartz.
Also, Buddy.
What is your explanation for having 4 cell phones?
Come on. Well, when I'm camping, I don't have a charger, so I just move on to the next phone every time. In 2005, just 3 years after Laci's murder, Scott was sentenced to death for 2 counts of murder. 2nd degree for Connor, 1st degree for Laci. In August of 2020, the Supreme Court reversed his death sentence. I will add, though, it was a death sentence in California, which we have talked about before. But whatever.
We don't get it.
Yeah. But they reversed it, finding that some jurors had been ruled out of the selection because of their objections to the death penalty in their original questionnaires. So, like, obviously that's not great. If you're going to be seeking the death penalty, you need, like, a mixed bag of people and how they feel about the death penalty. But at that point, he was resentenced to life without parole, which is basically what he had anyway, because he was on death row in California. Other theories. Let's get into the other theories for what could have happened. So, there was a theory that a couple houses down from the Petersons that day, or like around that day, but I guess it would have had to be that day, there was a burglary. People thought that this could have been related. Does seem a little unusual to kidnap a whole ass pregnant woman when you're just trying to steal things. But people theorize that she like stumbled across the burglary and intervened, and then this like got her in trouble. There is the simple option that she was abducted while walking her dog. Some witnesses even say that they saw a pregnant woman walking her dog around that day being harassed by 2 men. And then some speculate that this was a ritualistic killing of a pregnant woman by a satanic cult. Another pregnant woman, Evelyn Hernandez, was found washed up on the same shore just a few years before. And their missing dates, the dates that they first went missing, they both coincide with some sort of important dates on a satanic calendar.
I will say, Crime Junkie just covered Evelyn Hernandez's case and the disappearance of her son. And I don't think that her murder had anything to do with the satanic calendar either, based on circumstances of it. So, not sure about that one.
Yeah. On January 18th of this year, the LA Innocence Project filed motions seeking DNA testing and post-conviction discovery, I'm not really sure what that includes, in the Scott Peterson case. The Innocence Project often uses new DNA evidence to prove that someone was falsely convicted. His new legal team is stating that there is new evidence that supports Peterson's claim of actual innocence. They are said to be focusing on the nearby burglary as the alternative theory. They are saying that a burnt out orange van was found a mile from the Peterson home on Christmas Day in 2002, which may be connected to the burglary in the neighborhood, and police never knew about it. Who was it discovered by? And how did police not know about it? Like, I think it'd be one thing if they were like police withheld it, or like police didn't think it was related, but they didn't even know. Then like, how do you know?
Yeah, what does discovered mean then?
Like, just some local came to you 20 years later and told you? I don't know. So perhaps when they're talking about new DNA testing, they're saying they may have DNA from the van. It is strange that it's a mile away from their house, and I had heard that the burglary, there was a van. I mean, I don't know that it was orange, but anyway. And then they made this statement, quote, "In the course of LAIP's review and after some preliminary investigation, it became apparent to me that numerous items referred to throughout the police reports in Mr. Peterson's case were not included in the discovery that was provided to the defense at the time of the trial," end quote. While it is true that this case did not contain much physical evidence, the circumstantial evidence seemed copious. Scott Peterson placed himself at the spot that Laci's body would be found on a boat in December, after he said it was too cold to go golfing, I might add. After telling his girlfriend that this would be his first Christmas without his dead wife. Foreshadowing, my dear. Obviously,
Wishful
telling...
thinking.
He just, like, manifested the burglars taking her. Obviously, telling lies to the woman that you were having an affair with does not make you a murderer. And many have argued that because Scott's whereabouts on that day were made public so quickly, someone could have dumped Laci's body there on purpose to point further to Scott. Again, my mind is open. If you can prove it, prove it.
It's giving, I'm worried you're going to find Jacob Wetterling in my yard because somebody said to look in my yard.
And if you did, it would be in this spot, or this spot, or this spot. I have always said about this case that I feel like quite confident that Scott Peterson is guilty, but I definitely am not sure enough for a death sentence. Though I rarely am, since I don't agree with the death penalty. But there are people that I'm like, there is not a single doubt in my mind about Casey Anthony. Not a sliver. But this one, I'm like, okay, fine. Like, if you prove me wrong, I'll take it. But I do feel pretty good.
Yeah.
But if there is evidence that will exonerate him, then that is great.
Yeah. I agree. I definitely think he did it. I also do not believe in the death penalty. Someone I was talking to the other day, somebody said, like, that somebody should get the death penalty for something, and then she's like, oh my gosh, like, I shouldn't have said that. And the other girl was like, no, you're right, because no one has the right to take another person's life. And I said, girl, do you hear yourself? Do you hear yourself? That is a conversation for another day, probably. But yeah, I agree. I think that he did it. I don't think he should have the death penalty because I don't think anyone should. But also, I don't think it really mattered in California.
So who cares?
You were fine.
Yeah. I don't know. And I will say, like, I'm going to get myself got. Okay? You can tell me if we have to cut this. But there's a case that people feel very strongly about. And this person has since been let out of prison. And I believe that they are guilty. And the evidence...
Can I say who it is? Can I say who it is?
Yeah.
Katie thinks Adnan Syed killed someone.
Yeah, I do. I don't, like, it's a whole long thing. I don't think his trial was fair, blah, 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 blah. But the evidence that, like, got him out, it wasn't exonerating evidence. It was like, there's not enough evidence. So, like, I think that's my fear with Scott Peterson, is that he's going to basically be, like, deemed innocent. He's going to be released because of, like, a technicality. And it's not going to be like they're going to find Laci's blood mixed with someone else's DNA and, like, it's proof that it was someone else. Like, it just, I don't think it's, like, hard. Like, I don't know. I just worry that it's going to be enough to get him out, but not enough to make me feel like anything's different.
Yeah, I think the U.S. has to be careful about using the phrase, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, because, like, technically, if that's what we have to have, then
no one.
Yeah, anyone who's
not caught on fucking video
on purely circumstantial evidence.
Yeah. So we'll keep looking, finding out what's going on. And maybe we can do an entire bonus episode on our opinions on the death penalty.
And then we can do it on Adnan Syed.
No.
I would love for me to cover that case and see, like, what you do.
I'm not like a hater. Like I will say, let me be real here.
Calling someone a murderer is kind of a hater thing to do.
So
Would you
like
not hate him?
No,
if
I'm
he
saying
murdered
like
someone?
I'm not just being a hater to be a hater. Like
Oh.
I have consumed an insane amount of media about Adnan Syed, and I feel confident in my belief that what's his name?
Jay.
That Jay could not have done this alone. But Jay knows some shit, and I don't think they fed him every fucking thing. Okay? Okay? That's all. Thank you for coming to our half Adnan Syed bonus episode.
I think I don't think Jay had anything to do with it. I think Jay was not a good friend. I have always found it interesting that another girl went missing from the same high school that was also like Asian.
Yeah.
That's always intrigued me, but
Yeah. Well, alrighty, that's what we got.
yeah. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.